History is full of dark secrets, some so strange they sound like fiction. From haunted castles to bizarre ancient rituals, today we're counting down 5 eerie history facts you won't believe are real. 1. Our first story takes us to the remote, windswept hills of Cumberland, England, in the 19th century. This land of stark beauty and deep folklore is the setting for one of Britain's most enduring vampire legends. At its heart stood Crogland Grange, a house rented in the 1870s by 2 brothers and their sister Amelia. Their peaceful summer was shattered on one sweltering night. Unable to sleep, Amelia saw 2 strange lights moving across the lawn toward her window. Soon, a grotesque brown face with flaming eyes appeared. A horrifying scratching sound began as the creature picked at the window pane. It reached a long, bony arm inside, unlatched the window, and then unlocked the bedroom door. The creature entered and lunged at her bed, sinking its teeth into her throat. Her screams alerted her brothers, who burst in as a dark figure escaped out the window. They gave chase, but the creature was unnaturally fast, scrambling over a churchyard wall and vanishing among the tombstones. Amelia survived, left with 2 puncture wounds on her neck. Traumatized, the family left the Grange, spending the winter abroad to recover. But the horror was not over. Upon their return the following spring, the creature came back. This time, the brothers were prepared. As it appeared at the window, one fired his pistol, wounding it in the leg. The next morning, they followed a trail of blood from the window, across the lawn, and over the churchyard wall, directly to a dilapidated family vault. With help from locals, they broke open the heavy stone door. Inside, coffins were broken and scattered, all except one. Prying open its lid, they made a ghastly discovery, a shriveled, mummified corpse with a fresh bullet wound in its leg. Convinced they had found their monster, the villagers dragged the coffin out and set it ablaze. The vampire of Crogland Grange was never seen again. The tale, first published by author Augustus Hare, has been debated for over a century. Was it a true account of the undead, or an elaborate hoax? Whatever the truth, the legend endures, and even today, some say a restless spirit still haunts the grounds of the old estate. 2. Our journey into the bizarre takes us to the summer of 1518 in the city of Strasbourg, France. The air was thick not just with heat, but with the desperation of famine and disease. It was here in this crucible of hardship that one of history's most surreal events began to unfold. It started with a single person, a woman known as Frau Troffea. She stepped into the street and began to dance. There was no music, no celebration. Her movements were fervent, relentless, and utterly involuntary. For nearly a week, she danced alone, a silent, bewildering spectacle for her neighbors. But she wouldn't be alone for long. Within a week, 3 dozen others had been seized by the same compulsion. By the end of the month, the dancing plague had consumed over 400 citizens of Strasbourg. Men, women, and children were swept up in a macabre, non-stop dance marathon. The baffled city authorities, consulting with local physicians, came to a startling conclusion. They believed the affliction was a case of hot blood, a natural disease that could only be cured if the victims danced the fever out of their systems. In a decision that would prove fatal, they encouraged the dancing. They cleared open spaces, constructed a large wooden stage, and even hired musicians to provide a constant beat. The cure was a catastrophe. The relentless motion took a brutal toll. People danced until their feet were bloody and raw. They danced until they collapsed from sheer exhaustion, heart attacks, or strokes. At its peak, the dancing plague was reportedly claiming up to 15 lives per day. So what caused this deadly choreography? Theories have swirled for centuries. One early suspect was ergot, a toxic mold that grows on rye and can cause spasms and hallucinations. However, while ergotism can cause convulsions, it typically doesn't result in the coordinated, sustained dancing seen in Strasbourg. The most widely accepted modern theory points to mass psychogenic illness, or mass hysteria. The citizens of Strasbourg were living under immense psychological distress. Famine, poverty, and rampant disease created a powder keg of collective anxiety. The theory suggests that Frau Troffea's public breakdown triggered a chain reaction, a physical manifestation of a community's shared trauma. Yet no single explanation feels entirely complete. The dancing plague of 1518 remains a chilling testament to the power of the human mind and the mysteries that lie at the intersection of psychology, history, and biology. 3. In ancient China, certain numbers were feared and revered as portals to the underworld. People avoided saying them aloud, and ceremonies were held to protect against spirits that could slip through these numeric gateways. 4. Deep within the mist-shrouded glens and remote islands of Scotland, a network of ancient paths cuts through the rugged landscape. These are not ordinary trails. They are known as corpse roads, or coffin roads, and they hold a solemn and chilling history. For centuries, many isolated communities were miles, sometimes days, away from the nearest consecrated ground or parish church. When a death occurred, it marked the beginning of a final, arduous journey. The deceased had to be carried by hand from their home to their final resting place, ensuring a proper Christian burial. These processions were grueling tests of endurance and reverence. Teams of pallbearers, often family and neighbors, would take turns shouldering the heavy wooden coffin. They navigated treacherous terrain, over steep hills, across boggy moors, and through dense, dark forests. The journey was slow, silent, and somber, a final act of respect. But this was more than just a physical trek. It was a deeply spiritual ritual governed by strict, unwritten laws. It was believed that the spirit of the deceased traveled with the body, and every precaution had to be taken to ensure it didn't stray. The coffin could never touch the ground, lest the spirit be tempted to linger. Special resting stones were placed along the route for the bearers to pause without breaking this sacred rule. The body was always carried feet first, preventing the ghost from looking back at its home and being drawn to return. Breaking these traditions was thought to have dire consequences. If the procession strayed from the designated path, the ghost would become lost, forever doomed to wander the moors, or worse, follow the living back to the village. Today, many of these corpse roads are popular hiking trails, but the old stories cling to them like the Highland mist. Walkers report sudden, inexplicable drops in temperature, the faint sound of weeping on the wind, or the unsettling feeling of being watched. Some even claim to have witnessed ghostly processions in the twilight, spectral figures silently repeating their final solemn journey. 5. Finally, the Bell Witch haunted a Tennessee family in the early 1800s. Poltergeist activity included knocking on walls, objects moving, and even physical attacks. Visitors reported hearing disembodied voices predicting events. This legend inspired countless books and films. Which of these eerie history facts freaked you out the most? Let us know in the comments. And if you want more mysterious tales from the past, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications.